Scott, do you think Biden was a key factor in Trump's victory?
Of course. I mean, he's had an under 40% approval rating since August of 2021. The American people have been very unhappy with him. But on top of that, what I find particularly troubling is that all these Democrats who are now looking back on Biden and, oh, he shouldn't have run, he shouldn't have done this. These are the same people who were all too happy to go on television every day and tell us that Joe Biden was sharp as a tack, everything was fine, he was up to everything. And we now know there's huge amount of evidence that he wasn't, that he really was diminished, that he really wasn't up to the job. And yet they were pushing that campaign forward anyway. They finally dumped him after the debate when they couldn't hide it anymore. To me, the reckoning here is, when did everybody know Joe Biden was diminished? Why did they lie for so long? And are we going to get a full accounting of that? So I don't think Democrats have anyone to blame here but themselves. Joe Biden's going to go down in history as a pretty terrible president, I believe. And on top of that, if you're a Democrat, you think about how he ran his campaign the first time. I'm running to restore the soul of the nation, to rid us of Trump and Trumpism. Today, Donald Trump is stronger than he's ever been, more popular, and his agenda is ascendant in our politics.
Now, everybody, we all know that President Trump will make America great again. You know, Trump's vision for America great again, it just centers around the key pillars of revitalizing the economy, securing the borders, and asserting dominance on the global stage. His goal to restore what he describes as the American exceptionalism and emphasizing economic strength, sovereignty, and national pride is very important. But the success of this vision depends on execution, bipartisan support, and of course, the adaptability to evolving challenges. But everybody, the most important thing we got to talk about is probably the economy. One of the cornerstones of Trump's presidency was his focus on economic growth. It's central to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. It lowered the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%.
It is a complete and total political failure.
I mean, Van, that last part of what Scott just said is true. I mean, Trump did win and is more ascendant than he's ever been, even despite January 6th, despite all the stuff.
Did you think I didn't hear it when Scott was saying it? Like, you just wanted this? Yes. What do you want me to do? Can I leave?
Republicans are kind of thankful for Biden and previously Barack Obama. I mean, it was Obama's presidency that gave us Trump the first time, and it's Joe Biden's presidency that made Donald Trump stronger than ever. So we just want to say thank you to Obama and to Biden. We just want to say thank you guys. You guys have delivered us, and we're going to have American patriotism and economic optimism again, and it goes right back to Obama and Biden. So,
and before the crisis, well, the Trump administration also pursued aggressive deregulation and rolled back more than 100 rules across industries such as energy, finance, and agriculture. These efforts aim to reduce costs for businesses, particularly small businesses.
Federal employees have something new to worry about here in Washington. Elon Musk, who was selected by Donald Trump to find areas to cut in the government, is going after individual workers in a very public way, shaming them before his legions of followers on X. Last week, Musk singled out federal workers on a social media platform that's become a tool of the MAGA movement. CNN media correspondent Hadas Gold joins me now. Hadas, I mean, this obviously has the potential to get very disturbing very quickly. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is bipartisan support, even amongst some federal workers, to try and streamline and make the government more efficient. And federal employees are aware that there's likely going to be a lot of job cuts. But this is something that's really scaring them. And that is that Elon Musk reposted several posts from other users that revealed the private names of 4 women who are working in climate-related jobs in the government. Now,
one other person who was on stage recently and was talking about coming into the administration is RFK Jr. He said that Trump has promised him control of the public health agencies, HHS, which would be also, CDC, FDA, USDA, all of these agencies. Is that true? Has Trump promised him basically the HHS job?
So I spent 2.5 hours this week with Bobby Kennedy Jr. And it was the most extraordinary thing because let's face it, we've all heard on the news all sorts of sort of snarky comments about him. And I said, so tell me, how's it going to go? And he said, why don't you just listen to me explain things? And what he explained was when he was born, we had 3 vaccines and autism was 1 in 10,000. Now a baby's born with 76 vaccines because in 1986, they waived product liability for vaccines. And here's the best one. They started paying the people at the NIH, right? They pay them a piece of the money for the vaccine companies. Wait a minute, let me finish. And so All of these vaccines came out without product liability.
Before the crisis, the U.S. economy experienced significant growth. The unemployment rate fell to 3.5%. That was actually a 50-year low, with notable improvements for African-American, Hispanic, and Asian workers. But the median household income has reached also record highs. It reflected broad economic gains. Trump touted these statistics as evidence that his policies were working towards making America great again. So I actually hope that President Trump and his new team can actually do it again in 2024 because, boy, does America need it. Looking ahead, Trump proposes future economic initiatives to sustain this growth.
So what happened now? Autism is 1 in 34.
Okay,
amazing.
Neither of us are doctors. Vaccines are safe. RFK, I mean,
Why do you think vaccines are safe? There's no product liability anymore. They're not proven.
Kids get them and they're fine.
Why do you think they're fine?
But because they're proven scientifically to be so.
How about this? There was 1 in 10,000 people with autism. We all know so many more people with autism than had it when we were young. Oh, come on.
Okay,
I mean, his point is really interesting.
But
so here's what he
vaccines don't cause autism, which is what RFK pushes, which is why people are concerned that he could get a job like HHS. And I don't even think
he's not getting a job for HHS. What he's trying to do, here's what he wants to do. He said, I want data. I just want data because they block the data.
But the data's out there.
Wait, it's not.
They don't block it. You can look at it. It's online.
He wants the data so he can say these things are unsafe. He says, if you give me the data, all I want is the data, and I'll take on the data and show that it's not safe. And then if you pull the product liability, the companies will yank these vaccines right off of the market. So that's his point. He's not trying to do anything but things that made sense. And look,
this is not where I thought this was going because...
Well, I spent 2.5 hours
RFK Jr. is a vaccine skeptic. He pushes lies about vaccines. And I don't even think if Republicans...
Why do you think he pushes lies? Why you said,
I don't know why
you said I'm not a scientist and you aren't. So
yeah, but
he just wants
scientists
data.
say he pushes lies.
But scientists who are paid to say he pushes lies. I mean, let's give him the data. I think it'd be pretty cool to give him the data. Let's see what he comes up with.
Okay.
I think it's pretty fun.
He pushed conspiracies about COVID. He had to apologize for tying vaccine questions to what happened in Germany during the Holocaust.
I promise you, I have not looked at all the things he said.
So I don't think he's the leading voice that anyone's looking at for on
He
health.
said Roundup. Remember Roundup?
But you're saying he would not be in charge of HHS?
No, of course not.
Okay, so he's not going to be like an acting...
He's not going to be the secretary? No.
Well, he couldn't get confirmed, but would he be in it?
A key component is bringing manufacturing jobs to America, which he views as essential for reducing reliance on foreign supply chains, particularly from China. Trump's focus on energy independence, achieved partly through expanding domestic oil and gas production, ties into his vision that he argues reducing energy imports strengthens national security and to lower the cost for consumers. Trump also provides and promises to extend tax incentives for businesses, which will prioritize domestic operations and over outsourcing instead. And by promoting Make in America and Made in America goods, it's important that this will boost in employment and foster a sense of national pride that this current day in America so desperately needs. Guys, don't you agree? Because these plans do resonate with voters in manufacturing-heavy states. And it's a question that really actually critics have to answer. But the border security and immigration is also another thing that President Trump will take care of.
Expect mass protests in response to mass deportations?
I do, but I also don't expect mass deportations. I think that it sounds good and they look like the tough guys, and we know that that has really been their brand, is to basically look like the bullies that they are. But, you know, when you start to get into the nitty gritty and start to talk about details, that's when they're like, well, we didn't realize this or that, or even when you start to talk about the cost. When we start to ramp up what the cost will look like for us to actually effectuate this, but then also look at the cost to our economy, I just don't really see it happening. As the mayor pointed out, he talked about those service workers and things like that. And someone who serves on the agriculture committee, I can tell you that I have talked to countless farmers that talk about the need for these migrant workers. So listen, unless your viewers are planning to send their kids to school so that they can go and work on the farms, then God bless, we can make sure that we keep American agriculture going. But the reality is that that is not who's been working the farms in recent years. It has been these migrants. When we look at our hospitality, it has been migrants. When we look at the restaurant workers, it has been migrants.
Look at this shot right now coming in live. We got Musk there. We got, I don't recognize everybody. There's President Trump, Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, who is also thought to possibly have a position coming in the administration. Senator Ted Cruz on the left with the shades. Is that Ronnie Jackson on the right with the hat? I can't really tell. What do you make of this? They fashion themselves on social media as this legion of superheroes, this incoming administration. Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., et cetera, et cetera. I guess we're adding pictures and names. I know you now you're looking at me like you mean the Legion of Doom. But
it's the Marvel universe versus second-rate DC, but that's. I mean, if I understood what that meant, I would probably have a better opinion about it.
But
if we're talking about
Musk, talk to me about Musk. What do you think about the role he's playing in this administration?
Listen, this is one of the most successful people that the world has ever known, and the ability to build businesses and think outside the box and be an entrepreneur. That's a voice that the president really values. But when you look at this totality, this kind of theme that they all think they're superheroes now, there's a little bit more swagger with the Republican Party now because they did win the White House, the House, and the Senate. You see it in sports now where people are scoring touchdowns and goals and winning matches and doing the Trump dance. There are Republicans who are feeling pretty cool about themselves for the first time in a long time.
You know, one of Trump's most prominent campaign promises back in 2016, epitomized by the construction of the wall, the wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. And during his presidency, Trump did what he said he would do. He built approximately 450 miles of barriers that were built or reinforced. He argued that the wall would deter illegal immigration, and it did. Now, supporters of the initiative highlight data suggesting a decline of border apprehensions of illegal crossings. And its overall effectiveness does remain a little bit debated, but everyone knows the truth. Trump's vision for border security extends beyond physical infrastructure. It will include technological advances like surveillance systems and drones. And Trump's broader immigration agenda is focused on tightening controls and prioritizing merit-based systems. During Trump's presidency from 2016 to 2020, and now he's getting back into it with 2024 and 2028, it's actually called a DACA, Deferred Action for Child Arrivals. It faced legal challenges and reflected his administration's efforts to curtail and do whatever it takes to end illegal immigration. It proposed reforms emphasizing merit-based immigration and rewarding individuals with skills that benefit the U.S. economy. Also, Trump did target the sanctuary cities, and he criticized them for undermining federal immigration enforcement.
Look, I think that there's skepticism in the Republican caucus, more than I think the press is reporting right now. There's going to be ag state senators that are concerned about his impact on food prices. There's going to be principled pro-lifers who are concerned about his positions on abortion. And there's going to be a number of public health-minded senators who have deep concerns about his position on vaccines.
If you were talking to a Republican senator, would you say that the appointment of RFK could cost lives in this country?
I think if RFK follows through on his intentions, and I believe he will, and I believe he can, it will cost lives in this country. You're going to see measles, mumps, and rubella vaccination rates go down. And like I said, if we lose another 5%, which could happen in the next year or two, we will see large measles outbreaks. For every 1,000 cases of measles that occur in children, there will be one death. And we are not good in this country at diagnosing and treating measles. If you look at the outbreak in Ohio, 30% of the kids were hospitalized. You look at the outbreak in Minnesota, 20% were hospitalized because we don't diagnose it quickly because doctors aren't accustomed
the ability to do it?
We lost the ability to diagnose it because doctors aren't accustomed to seeing it, and we don't know how to manage it in the healthcare system.
And by the way, if you have a new child, that child can't get vaccinated until what, age 2 or something?
That's right. And they're very vulnerable. And remember, maternal transmission of measles, congenital measles, causes serious consequences in pregnancy.
Trump's policies are aimed to protect American workers by restricting visas for foreign laborers. And while these measures are actually appeal to voters concerned about job competition, they also sparked backlash from immigration groups and advocacy groups. But Trump consistently emphasized the importance of building a strong military, which we actually need so very much today. Under Trump's administration, the defense spending actually increased significantly, enabling modernization efforts and the development of advanced technologies. The establishment of the U.S. Space Force as a new branch of the military highlighted his commitment to maintaining technological superiority. Trump has also pursued a strategy of reducing U.S. involvement. Back in 2016, 2020, there was no war. There was no war in Ukraine. There was no war in Israel. And now, what do we got? We got a war in Israel and we got a war in Ukraine, all because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But luckily, with them out of the picture, Trump will stop this. He pursued, like I said, a strategy of reducing involvement in Afghanistan and Syria. But he also argued that these efforts allowed America to focus on domestic priorities. Now, let's not forget that healthcare and social issues were a very important thing. Healthcare for reform was actually a contentious issue during Trump's presidency. While efforts to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act fell short, his administration made changes to reduce its impact. It eliminated the individual mandate penalty, and Trump has also repeatedly promised to lower prescription prices, citing the need to make healthcare more affordable to all and every Americans. Now, in education, though, Trump has promised to go for school choice, allow families to use public funds for private or charter schools, and proponents argue that this policy only empowers parents and fosters competition among schools. This will only improve the quality, though. Opponents contend that it is often diverting resources from public education. And on social issues, well, Trump always aligned with conservative and Republican values. And that's what we need, emphasizing religious freedom and opposing any radical left liberal policy that will infringe on our traditional family structures. Now, folks, I'm ready for Joe Biden to get out of office and for President Trump to come back into this. And despite his ambitious agenda, Trump has always faced significant challenges in achieving his vision.